Hey, I'm William Petrow. Welcome to PetrowLine. This is our vodcast that we've been working on actually for the past few months. Unfortunately, we're not at the studios in New York City, but we're going to do our best to entertain you guys as best we can during the quarantine here. So I'm coming to you from Quebec. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan Symancek, stuck in quarantine at my home in Portland, Maine. I'm on the Billy Petrow podcast, which he calls PetrowLine this week. So check that out. I'm a sort of rally driver, rally navigator, and I do motorsport media with a company called Tangent Vector. And I had a couple shows back in the day called My Life as a Rallyist and Born a Car with the /Drive network on YouTube. That was big in 2014, 2015, 2016. The car that was the star of that first season of My Life as a Rallyist, I still daily drive. It's right there. It was built at Broken Motorsports between two different Subarus. And now it just sports a roof rack and takes me snowboarding. Anyway, here we go. Check it out.
So Ryan, let's talk about a few things here. I mean, obviously there's a bajillion things we can talk about, the two of us, and we've been together for a long time. We've known each other and we've been through all kinds of stuff. But let's sort of just brief real quick, how we first met and sort of work together.
Well, I don't even know if you know exactly how I found out about you, because how I found out about you was on the Big Boulder Park ski area website when Ian Oliver, who used to work management for Big Boulder Park in Pennsylvania in the Poconos where I used to ski, he had posted a picture on the website with some ski rails in it. At the time I was skiing a lot of park, and I was like, whoa, there's like Big Boulder sponsoring rally cars? Like, what's this all about? And a little bit, because you ran some vinyl on the car, I think, in 2008 or 2009.
Yeah,
and,
2009.
And I can't remember exactly. I think it was just a Google search of like, hey, like, where, like, what are you doing? Where are these cars at? And then you let me know that you were going to be at the Team O'Neill rally. I think that was 2009, like April of 2009. And I drove up there and you were running with Jeremy in the Impreza, and you guys were a hell of a rally. It was awful. In typical fashion.
It was actually 2010, but yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a rally for sure.
Yeah, you were missing bumpers and doors and things, and it was, this is before I was like, this guy's crushing, and little did I know that historically you'll just end up on your roof more times than one. But yeah, I mean, I think I just showed up randomly at a Team O'Neill rally, and I'd been spectating rallies forever before that. And you were like, come down to the shop, and so I kind of made the connection, and I was still in high school or just out of high school, and getting texts. But yeah, and then I basically that summer just started coming to the shop. And that's how we started hanging out, and you taught me a lot of stuff. I basically knew absolutely nothing other than like wrenching on like Toyota pickup and a Ford Bronco, which were my two rally cars in high school.
Right.
Yeah, so that's, I basically just put that time in and drove from the Poconos of Pennsylvania to Union City, New Jersey, back and forth, and tried to pick up as much Subaru and rally knowledge as I could.
Yeah, and that wasn't really it's not really a short drive. So
no, it's like an hour, an hour or something. The truck
hour 20,
75 miles
hour and a half.
Topped out.
Yeah, depending on traffic, could be 2 hours.
Yeah. But yeah, I put the time in. I had a friend of mine I grew up with, Joe, who would obviously, he came up and he was like, at the time he was like 4 years old. Not really, he was like 12. But so, him and I would come and hang out with you, and then, we would come and start crewing for rallies. I mean, that was the big thing, right? Like STPR at that time was big, and I had seen other people running that I knew locally, and then you started running STPR, so I was like, all right, I know this rally, like, let's crew it, let's get it done. And a couple of years in, and I mean, yeah, we can go on and on forever. I mean, we built cars together, we built Fiestas and Prezas, whatever, crewing all the way up. So
yeah, there's a lot of history for sure. I mean, you know, we've been in kind of all over the place. We've been into a lot of different stuff together, but you know, let's just keep talking about, you know, where that sort of evolved from there. You know, when I first met you, and before you started, like, you know, working for me, you know, as like an intern, I remember getting a phone call from your dad saying, you know, he's going to be an airline pilot. He's going to be a pilot.
I don't remember this.
Oh, I remember this. And he's, you know, he's going to be an airline pilot. He's not going to be a mechanic. You know, he's going to be like, you know, a pilot. So don't let him stray from that. Well, okay. Like, you know, I don't remember what I said to your dad, but I was
flat
like,
brim wearing rally drivers.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, sure, you know, like whatever, you know. And so I remember that. But I mean, you know, from going from that to sort of where you're at now and what's been going on, obviously, over the last, you know, 5 to 10 years, is quite a bit different from being a pilot.
Yeah.
even though you are a pilot, but you know,
my dad supports it now. I mean, I think like, you know, where I've ended up. I mean, I don't know where I kind of fit into rally. I think that's always been an interesting thing for me, because I can't really classify myself as a driver because I've only driven one full stage rally. I could say I'm a co-driver, even though I'm good at co-driving. I've done a lot of co-driving. I don't want to be a co-driver full time. I could say that I'm a media guy, but there's other people in the field that are definitely bigger rally media people than me. I could say I'm a YouTube host, but I'm no longer doing that. So it's like, I don't know where I fit into rally, but I do know that starting with you, starting at Broken Motorsports after being obsessed with rally forever, that opened up so many doors and so many everything to, like, hey, we're in New York City, like, people, like, yeah, it's a city, but people are rallying here, people are doing media, there's motorsport stuff, everything's kind of there. I mean, Classic Car Club's there's a whole bunch of stuff. So, like, you know, my brain, like, was firing on all cylinders, because it's like, okay, I'm building some Subaru stuff here, like, Billy's doing this, Billy's going there, he's going to that rally. It's like, how do I fit into this? And I couldn't really figure it out. And I mean, a super long story, really short, was I you know, for my dad and myself, I ended up going to a very nice college. But engineering didn't work out. It was just super tough. I was struggling really bad. And then that was where I was, like, kind of doing fun videos, like ski videos for people, rally videos. Like, when we were when I was crewing for you, like, I'd go work on the car, and then I'd get in my truck and, like, run out to a stage and, like, film you going by, and then run back, like, wrench on the car, and then, like, run back out, film you going by again, and then, like, make a video, you know? So it's like, I started doing that, like, while I was in school. And because we were in New York, I was trying to find an internship that was like, where can I, like, and this is like literally how I found Drive, was like, where can I get an internship that's in media? Because I switched my major to, like, communications and theater, actually, but it was more for film. I wanted to make films. And it was like, where can I get an internship in New York City for film? But then where can I also, like, at night, go back to the shop, work with you, like, we're local, like, I could still do rally, but, like, okay, I'm going to go do film now. It's not going to be cars. So, like, I applied to like a makeup company, you know. It was just like, it was like, whatever. It's like, whatever does film, like, that'll work. And, like, I couldn't find anything. Like, I was using these, like, websites that help you find internships, and I couldn't find anything. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to get an internship for my college. Like, my college credit was, like, you know, do a media internship. I'm like, I guess I'm not going to do it. Like, whatever. Like, I'll just work with you in the summer. We'll do it. And then I was watching, just, YouTube like everybody does, and I was watching a Chris Harris on Cars video that Drive on YouTube just started, and they had done this thing with Chris Harris over in the UK, and he was driving a BMW 325 IS. I think it was like Sweet Lamb Rally School or somewhere around there. And I knew nothing about Drive. I knew nothing about any like motorsports media in New York City. And I was like, what is this? This guy's like throwing it around. I just loved it. Rear wheel drive, rally, like some really decent YouTube content with a host, and it had a story. And I found out that the company /Drive, or what everybody calls Drive, or the Drive now, I found out that they were in New York City. So I started, there was no way to like email anybody. It was just like random YouTube. It's like I can make a comment and be like, hey guys, hire me. And it's like, yeah, nobody's going to comment back. So I just kept looking at like what Drive was doing, who they had as hosts, who they had as cameramen in the credits. And I found this one guy named Tom Morningstar that I saw his name constantly. It's like, okay, Tom Morningstar's filming this, he's filming that. So I basically just kept Google searching and found his name online with his email, and I emailed him, and he was like, yeah, like, are you in New York? Like, we're shooting at Monticello Motor Club tomorrow, like, show up. And I was like, all right, like, I guess I'll show up. Like, am I getting paid? I don't know. Like, I don't care. I'm just gonna go show up. So I was in Philly that night, and I drove like straight from Philly, like 4.5 hours, like, and just like showed up, and they're like, hey, your B camera, here you go, and like gave me a camera. And they luckily gave me a camera that I knew how to operate. And it was basically like a miscommunication. And Tom had told like the upper management that they had hired somebody. I thought I was just like going to watch this all happen. Luckily, they threw me a camera that I knew how to use. And I just shot like 2 pieces for like Cadillac, and then like a Chris Harris on Cars and a Mustang, and like a GT500 and like a ZL1 Camaro. And like, it was like, we shot like 4 episodes in like 2 days at Monticello Motor Club. And and I walked out of that, and they're like, who are you? Like, and I'm like, well, I don't even know who I am. I'm just like, just a kid in college and trying to figure out what I'm doing. So the guy who runs that company, JF Musial, he basically thought that he liked me. I knew what I was doing. He knew I was in New York. So I started working for Drive on YouTube, which is basically, at that time, it was owned by a company called Tangent Vector. And so I started working under Tangent Vector, and we were doing commercial content, and we were doing the Drive channel, which in 2013 was huge. Everybody, it was like top 3 in like automotive YouTube, like Motor Trend and like Auto Week and Drive, so
right. Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. And I basically I think with a lot of people, and a lot of my life has been just kind of weaseling my way in through emails, and that's how, meeting people through, Instagram Messenger, being like, hey, like, I like this, like, how do I get involved?
Right.
And that's how Drive happened. And it happened for me. Drive happened all the way up until Time Inc. bought Drive, and that's when the name switched, and that's when everything got kind of weird. But I was able to shoot video for them, edit video for them. I did all of that stuff. I folded T-shirts and put them in FedEx and gave them to people. I got everybody coffee. I did everything, because we had a studio in Manhattan at the time. We had 38th and 8th Street. We had a studio. We don't have that anymore. But so I was working in New York City, working for Billy, and then I was still in college. So I was like, at the time, it was like the last day. I was sitting with JF. We were in the studio. It was just me and him. We were working late. It was like 7 o'clock at night. And I just turned to him. I'm like, friggin', I don't know, I'm 22. I'm like, I want my own show. And he's like, all right, And he's like, where's your proposal? And I'm like, I don't have a proposal. I want my own show. I want a show about rallying. Like, you're not doing any rallying. And the thing that got me here was Chris Harris driving a rally car. Like, to me, that was the coolest content we made, and I didn't make it. I want to do rally. Like, there's a guy across the river in Union City, New Jersey. We've been working on Subarus. Like, I want to get this content out there. Like, North America doesn't have a lot of it. And he's like, okay. And I was like, great. And I was stupid because I was like 22 and young and didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, okay, cool. I got a show. And I like walked out of there and like didn't hear anything for 2 months. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
the typical.
yeah. So November comes around and I was like, hey, so like, what about that show? And he's like, oh yeah, how's $4,000 budget? And I'm like, sick, $4,000, awesome. I'm like, that went real quick,
Yeah.
like $4,000 was like, oh man, I could buy a shitty Subaru and like some parts and everything else is at my cost. But hey, 6 episodes out the door, man. Like, so I actually weaseled, so that became what is My Life as a Rallyist, which is kind of what I've done in YouTube in the rally community. Is I started that show. That was a drop show.
Season 1 was 6 episodes.
6 episodes, season 1, and technically 11 episodes, season 2. They happened like 2.5 years apart. Right. So I started shooting My Life as a Rallyist in 2013 while I was still in college. I was like borrowing all of the rental media camera equipment at my college.
I remember this.
Yeah, just like whatever, like little Panasonic handy cams and like shitty audio equipment and like I didn't know. I was never a gear guy. I was never a camera gear guy. I didn't care. Like if it shot video, I could put it into a timeline. Like sick. Like that's great. So that's how it started. And then so I started kind of trying to formulate a story. So My Life as a Rallyist was always supposed to be like buy a car, build a car, put a cage in it, go rallying, compete, and like do well or fail. And that was always supposed to be like, that's the story. Like college kid, college budget, like what can you do bare bones? Like how do you build a race car bare bones? Like I was going to run freaking KYB AGXs and slam it through STPR and call it a day. And like, there's the episode.
Like I did.
That didn't happen because I ran out of money for things like a cage and whatever. And
yeah, of course.
And I was still in school. So like school was just taking me wherever. So basically I had this plan to go to New Zealand, and that was something that I had done as a study abroad program. I went there basically thinking I was just going to give up on the documentary for now. I was just, all right, we're going to go to New Zealand. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do theater. And I showed up, and lo and behold, I knew of WRC New Zealand, but I didn't think the entire country is like freaking obsessed with it. Like absolutely obsessed with rallying. Like, oh yeah, we think like, yeah, okay, like it's starting to like, stir up in America now. Well, it's like now New Zealand, like everybody has like a freaking Starlet or a Corolla in their garage, and they're all trying to climb some dirt mountain with it.
We got a Corolla.
Yeah. But so basically the first season of My Life as a Rallyist was a little bit about the Subaru that you and I put together with Justin and in the Broken Motorsports shop, and a little bit about rallying in New Zealand. And it was just how it happened. It was just chance. I got there and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, man, this is amazing. There's historic cars. There's all this stuff. Like, I have to film this. I'd be silly not to. Like, forget the story about the Subaru, forget the arc. Like, this is it. So it's kind of a weird season because like you have this really grassroots Subaru thing, and then it's just like New Zealand, Lancia 037s, like Stratos, like, V8 Capri, Hayden Patton. I interviewed Hayden Patton, at the time was not a WRC driver, but, was now a WRC driver with Hyundai for a couple of years. And, and then back down to like, hey, we're doing New England SCCA Rallycross. So it's like the last 2 episodes are like me driving around cones. So it had a little bit of everything, and people seem to love it. So that was probably, and at that time too, I should mention that at that time Drive was like at its absolute peak. So there were like 1.8 million subscribers, and when I put the first video out, which I can barely even watch it now, it's so terrible because I didn't know what I was doing. I was barely editing videos at that point. But I remember like one of the craziest things in my life, which really opened me up to like, wow, media, internet, the whole thing is so much bigger than I realized, was I posted the video. Well, Drive posted the video. So it's like, oh yeah, you're premiering at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm in my dorm room. I see the video go up and it's got like 10 views. And I remember talking to my friends, and I'm like, yeah, man, if we get 5,000, like, I'll be so happy. Like I don't know why, like 5,000 will be so cool. I literally hit refresh at like 7:05, and I had 60,000 views. Like in 5 minutes, like, 12 times what I thought in 5 minutes. And I was like, holy crap, like this is so much bigger than I realized. And
oh yeah,
that was one of the coolest experiences of my life, because it was just like it just blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as of right now, because I checked before we got on the phone here, but as of right now, season 1's got 1.9 million views over the entire season. Season 2, which of course came out after Drive's peak, time for the most part. Before it was after they were free. Right, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was after they were free. I mean, that's got 11 shows versus 6, and that's at just a little over 1 million views for the total there. But I mean, the content and the quality is just so much better than season 1.
Better.
So much better.
It had about 3 years more time of me actually doing commercial content and learning how to edit and learning how to shoot.
Yeah, and better cameras, better audio,
everything,
the whole thing. So I mean,
I'm super proud of season 2. I mean, season 2
is awesome.
I still go back and look at the trailer, because I was like, man, like I forget I did that stuff. Like, I don't know if it is, maybe, like, I think in my brain I'm always like, it's hard, because in my brain I get a little bit down, because like that stuff was so cool, and it was all luck, man. It was all timing, luck, like random networking, and it was also like where the internet was at that time. It's like people were watching that. Now everybody's just watching anybody's vlog that can stick a camera in front of their face and do this. But like,
you mean like this?
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just at that time it was like I think my stuff was like a vlog, but it was a little bit more edited. It was a little bit more produced, and like that was kind of new and fresh, and people loved it at that time. And I get a little bit down now, because I'm like, man, that was the coolest stuff ever, and like I don't know how to do that. But then I like every once in a while I'll go back and I'll watch one of the videos, and I don't watch them often, but I'll watch one and I'll be like, holy shit, like I drove with Jimmy McRae in Colin's Subaru Legacy, like in 2015 at the like at Higgins Rally School, like what?
No.
Like,
I mean,
if I ever
the
feel
mishmash of it all is just insane. I mean, it really is.
And most of the time in my life, like I'm just like, man, what the hell am I doing? Like I still haven't built like a proper rally car, and then I just have to go and kick myself a little bit, because I've been extremely lucky with some of the stuff I've gotten to do. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and I mean, not just talking about, my life as a rallyist, because obviously you've done a lot of stuff for them on the back end, filming, editing, all kinds of stuff like you were saying. But I mean, another show that you did was Born a Car, and that I didn't count how many episodes that was, but I think it was like 5 or 6, and I mean that's got 1.4 million views, So
Born a Car, for those who don't, I feel like a lot of people too, they associate me more with my life as a rallyist, which I would want, because that's my show, that was my creation. Born a Car actually wasn't my idea at all. Born a Car was JF Musial's idea. It was his like project. It was like he was going to do it, he was going to shoot it, and he just didn't have time. That's why the show became focused around a 2-door E30, which was like that. It had to be that. That was something he wanted to do. It's like take an E30 through all these different things. It was very similar to the Billy Petrow idea of 240SX Swiss Army knife. It's like drift, time attack, rally, like blah, blah, blah. It's like that idea. Like we were kind of already formulating that at Broken Motorsports. And it's like, well, JF wants to do this with an E30. And the things that he kind of laid out were, well, he wanted to off-road, like rock crawl the thing and chump car race it, like endurance race, 15-hour or 24-hour chump car race. So those were the two things. He's like, I want to get from rock crawl to endurance circuit racing. And I was like, okay, so I can fit, I could fit drifting, rally, I could fit a couple things in between, like things I want to do. And when he handed the project over to me, because he realized he was way over his head probably, it's like, okay, like I know where this car can be built. I can wrench on it. I know where the cage can be done. Like I have the connections. I have the truck and trailer. I have everything. Like let's make it happen. So he's like, okay,
Right.
cool. So Born a Car it basically fell into my lap and was probably the most stressful and the most overworked I've ever been in my entire life. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like I just 20 hours a day, no sleep, constantly traveling. At the time, I mean, I still live in Maine. I'm currently in Maine. Maine's great, but at the time I was living in Maine and the car was in New Jersey, so that was difficult.
Yeah.
And
No, I remember like you coming to the shop and like working on the car and just, you're like, okay, I'm here for like 4 hours and then I got to go here. And then like you like tear into the car, you'd get out as like your dirtball self, like covered in dirt from head to toe. And then like you'd go somewhere else and like have to do other things and then come back like a week or two later and like put in another couple hours and,
Yeah, you can't put that stuff on a resume.
No.
It's like,
No.
like nobody will ever understand how difficult. And I think that's what makes motorsport so interesting in general, is because a lot of us grassroots guys, we're all doing stuff like that. But like, I was literally sleeping on your sofa in your shop with a propane heater and a building that's like falling apart and dripping water and like, it's like I'm covered in grease. I haven't showered in days, and there's a shot in like I forget, I think it's the second episode, and there's a shot where like I'm like I hired a camera guy for this one, and he turns the camera to me, Jack Morningstar. He turns the camera and I'm just like I literally like I hadn't slept. Like I had a massive headache and I just like walk out of the shop and I'm like in total grease and like this gross thing. And I'm just like, there's the car. It's like, that's how I felt, man. There it is. Like, I don't think we're ever going to get this done, but there it is. And, basically we built the car. And I mean, this is freaking awesome stuff, but like we built the car, Billy and I, and then oh man. So yeah, we got it done before the cage. This is before the cage. We had to put it up on big tires. We got BFG tires. They shipped them from Mexico. It was a massive thing. They came to the shop. We put them on, lifted the car up on Bilsteins, and then some car carrier picked it up, shipped it to Colorado, and then Chris Harris, Matt Farah, Mike Spinelli, all those guys like drove it up a Jeep trail, and then they're like, oh, I don't know, it broke. And we get it shipped back to Broken Motorsports, and the tank, if you remember this, like the tank was just like destroyed. The gas tank like leaking everything, and they're like, oh yeah, no, it was leaking gas. So we get this like crumpled E30 back, get it up on the lift. I think you and I swapped the tank, and then we did a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, we did roll cage because the next thing after Colorado was going to ESPR.
ESPR, yeah.
That time it was a NASA rally, and so we were rushing. Like we had like a 4-day window. Like the cage had just finished up, and we had like a 4-day window to like put everything else on this car and get it to ESPR, which was an hour, maybe 2 hours up the road. So we were gonna pack there. And that night, so Thursday night, the day before Recce, we started up, and I was like on the way to our friend Alex's to go to bed, and it's like 4 a.m. or whatever, and I'm driving off of 495 to head towards.
Oh my God, I forgot about this.
Yeah, I'm driving off 495 to head towards where does Alex live? Sparta, New Jersey. And
Jersey, yeah.
The car just shuts off. Like it just completely shuts off, and I like coasted into like a BP gas station, get under the car, and it just leaks like 10 gallons of gas all over the ground. And I call you up and I'm like, yeah, like this thing's done. We're not going to the rally tomorrow. Like I'm beyond pissed and beyond stressed. And like, I'm just like, yeah, it's not happening. And you come with the van. We flat tow this thing like through the city.
Yep.
And like literally, I think that next morning I went to Levent. I went to Levent's house, Levent's place, Guten Parts in Orange County, New Jersey. Is it Orange County? I think that's
not Orange County. One of the Oranges at the time. He's not
Orange.
there now, but yeah, he was in East Orange or West Orange or Orange. Yeah, that.
Yes. Anyway, so Guten Parts, he's a great guy, Levent Ermhauser, or however you say his last name. But he hooked me up with like a new tank, a new sending unit, like all this stuff. And it's like, we threw that in the car, and then there was electrical issues, and then we missed recce. And I remember coming into the control at ESPR, we had rushed everything together for the start. Like, forget recce, like it's just not going to happen. We rushed everything together. And I Alex, who was my co-driver, handed that guy the time card with like 3 seconds left before we were late. And like, we had not stopped. We had not stopped for 4 days straight. And like down to the minute, like it was like, here's the time card. Okay, your minute's up, go. And like, we went and we did it. And like, that was like, you can make a show, you know, and rally's inherently hard to film.
Yeah.
You can make a show and you can try your hardest and you're still going to film 15% of it. You know, you can't, like, unless I spent $4 million and had 15 camera guys on me all the time, it's like you couldn't get that amount of pressure and stress. But like, I still think the show kind of, you know, it kind of spells that out. And I think, like, when I say to the camera, like, I don't know if we're going to make it, like, we were literally filming it that day and editing it that night or whatever. And like, we literally had no idea if we were going to make it. And that was like pretty much the entire show.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But we
did. I mean, you know, time, like you said, I mean, you can't put time management expert on a resume.
No.
And it actually carry any weight. But yeah, I mean, everything is insane time management.
Yeah,
but,
you can't put flying by the seat of your pants constantly on a resume because it will look bad, but it will also make the most incredible stuff because it makes the best story. I mean, like, we were so, and the fact that none of us really, like, I don't know how many E30s you've worked on previously, but like probably not many. Like, I never touched one. Alex Jaeger never touched an E30. It was like
it was 20 years since I last worked on E30s at that time. I mean, you know, when I was in high school, I was buying E30s and E21s and E28s like an idiot for like $500 or less. I was buying them left and right, you know, but I mean, like, literally I hadn't touched one in 20 years. So, I mean, I had lost all of my knowledge that I knew about those things. I mean, I was like, you guys were going through some stuff that I didn't even know. I couldn't even remember, you know, what to do or, you know, anything. So
just wiring diagrams and like, hey, look at, like, you know, you can't learn a car that quick. And like,
somehow we do.
We had to learn a car because of like the stipulations of the show, and you know, it's like, I'm not going to get a budget if I pick a Nissan 240SX, even though I did want to pick a Nissan 240SX or Subaru, but like, hey, because the crazy thing is like the E30, like I feel like the Subaru is now the internet car, but like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, the E30 was like the internet car.
Yeah.
So it was like almost perfect timing that way. And that's kind of why JF spelled it out that way. It's like, we need to do an E30. It has to be a coupe. It has to look as close to an M3 as possible. And we did. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It made an amazing show. It has some very funny bits in it. And the 14 or 15 hours chump car race that we did, at the end of that, like, I still tear up because like, it's kind of emotional, like for me especially, because we limped this car 15 hours after all of the stuff we went through, and like the last couple shots, like the sun is setting and Tom Morningstar, who was filming for me at that time, was like up in the flagger stand, and you see the car coming like down the last left-hander through the straightaway, and like the sun setting, and it looks like Le Mans, like it looks like an actual movie. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like the last couple shots, and like we're all high-fiving, and I'm like, I can't, like, that was like drop the mic. Like, I don't think I could do any better. and I haven't because I still don't have anything new.
Right. Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, you have something new, but it's not like to that crazy extent. I mean,
no.
you know, we actually don't have too much time left here. I mean, I'm down on battery power on the phone. I'm doing this on a phone, of course. But you know,
Yeah.
let's quickly just touch on you know, Rallyest laps.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I think like people see my old YouTube stuff and they're like, oh, why don't you just do it again? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, like, you know, I need to work as well. And like people don't realize that like editing that stuff for me, I mean, I'm a pretty good editor at this point, but editing that stuff takes a long time. I mean, a ton of footage, a ton of different days, a ton of different cameras, GoPros, everything. You put it all together and it's like, oh man, I'm looking at multiple weeks here before I get this like synced up, cut down to the point where it works, and then colored. Like, you know, forget it. So everybody's like, well, just do it again, or like, oh, you know, like you're a rich kid, right? Like figure it out. And it's like, well, one, no, two, I gotta work I gotta make something happen, and like and three, I'm not getting the budgets from Drive that I was getting. Like there's no budget for this. So it's like, how do you stay current? Well, it's like, you know, you can stay current on Instagram, you can stay current on whatever. Smoking Tire, those guys have been doing one takes forever. So I was just like, well, like let's do something pretty quick. And I came up with Rallyest laps, which it was just because like all of us, like, you know, New Englanders and a couple of you guys down in the Mid-Atlantic area, we're all going ice racing in the weekends at the wintertime. And it was like last year and this year we got a ton of ice time in. And it's one of those things where people are pretty down with like, hey, try out my car, like whatever. Because like the worst thing you could do is throw it into a snowbank. Like you're not going to wrap it around a tree. You might break something, but people are pretty down with letting you share your stuff. So it started with that. It was like, okay, like I'm gonna, you know, I'll jump in this car. I'll do one with my car. And then my friend Ben was like, jump in my STI. Like, let's do a video with that. So I would jump in Ben's STI with bolted tires and like do like 80 miles an hour around a pond with that thing. And like, you know, I make a quick cut down video. Like basically it's a one take. And I try to talk and, you know, say what the car's doing, what it's feeling. I'm not trying to like review the car. I'm just trying to like show some emotion in driving, and that's all there is to it. It's not exactly what I'd want to be doing. I want to be doing like a more theatrical piece, a more story-based piece, but right now it's like what I can do with the time allotted, and I'm trying to get a couple together. I've got one of my Volkswagens and a couple Subarus, your Quattro, which I think is one of the coolest episodes. It was like the first thing I did was Billy's Subaru with an Audi drive line and a Subaru motor, and a thing like pops and crackles like the Rice Krispie kids, and the thing was amazing. I mean, that car, and it wasn't even on bolts. It was on like Nokian Hakkapeliitas, which are amazing.
DOT studs.
DOT tires. And like we were driving around like a ice track with a bunch of rednecks and pickup trucks, and we've got this like full on like old SCCA Pro Rally car, like, you know, popping by them, and like that's a cool car to drive. I mean, that was definitely one of my favorite cars to ever drive. Just on the sound itself, like how like in your head it was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Rally laps, I hope to do more of it. I actually have, now that we're all quarantined, thanks coronavirus, I have a couple of videos that I'm trying to put out. One is a few years old at this point. It's when my friends Alex Jager, Matt Bystruck, and myself, we took an E36 that we bought for $500, and we went up to Stafford Springs in Connecticut, and we all ran the rallycross, like the three of us just sharing seats. But like, we were basically just drifting, and and like literally just like fooling around to the utmost. Like all three of us were in last place. And the best part is like Alex's ex-girlfriend at the time, she was also driving the car, and she had never driven a rallycross before and beat all of us because she was just driving around the course and like crushing us. And we were just like flat out, like, you know, like hanging it out wide for the fans and like throwing it in. And then like Alex would be in the like right-hand seat with me, like trying to shove Oreos in my face or Chips Ahoy cookies, and like I had a full face helmet on, and he's like trying to feed me cookies.
Oh my god!
Spinning out, and Like, so I got that video to put out, and then I also have a video with Texas Dave from Rally Ready, Dave Carpathian. And we did a thing with UTVs that I shot. At this point, it's almost 2 years old, with his YXZ 1000s, and driving that with actually Ron Zaris from Hoonigan.
Oh, okay.
He's not really in the video, but he was there at the same time, and that was an absolute blast in Texas. So I got those two things to pick out, to put together while I'm sitting here in my house in quarantine in Maine. What I really would like to be doing is going to the shop that all my cars are at and start working on those. But they're an hour and a half away, and I'm doing the CDC recommendation thing of not moving anywhere. So
Me too.
right now, everything's just staying put.
Yeah,
But
me too. I'm currently in Quebec, and I'm 7.5 hours from my shop.
you're a Canadian, eh?
I'm temporarily, officially a Canadian. Yes.
Yeah, you're
a Quebecois.
yeah, you're a
Quebecois.
Canuck.
So, but anyways, well, we got to wrap it up. But thanks for. My battery keeps telling me that we're like killing it here. So,
Yeah.
but thanks for coming on. And obviously there's a lot we can talk about. We can talk about all different kinds of stuff for hours. We didn't even touch on some of the stuff that we wanted to talk about.
If all you guys are listening, I can go over all of the times Billy has rolled. That could just be a podcast in itself.
Pretty much, yeah.
And how many times we've had to oh my God, climb to the clouds. How many times we've had to fix that thing and repair it. Like 2016, climb to the clouds. That is a story in itself. I wasn't even in the car for that one. And that's 2017, climb to the clouds. Like, I wasn't even in the car for that, and the story of how that thing came together, and I ran to my buddy's shop in Portland, and we literally pulled a car out of the forest and then put it on your car.
Yes, which was also in the forest on its roof. Which was also in the forest on its roof. Yeah.
But yeah, I got some other stuff. I'd love to talk to you more. I mean, it'd be fun to actually see you in person and get down to Jersey and do more car stuff once we're all
we're all de-corona'd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
all right, man. Well, yeah, if anything, I mean, if that doesn't happen soon, we'll try to get you back on the show, sometime soon. Maybe actually in the studio, in Jersey, in New York. We've got 2 studios, and we've actually been planning this whole podcast thing for, God, it's close to 6 months at this point, and we've had a lot of trials and tribulations and stuff that we've been trying to overcome. But this is going to sort of roll us off the bat right here with our whatever we call this, PetrowLine mobile, PetrowLine on the go.
Oh, you want to donate?
PetrowLine.
Oh, okay. He only wants to donate $5 though. I'm sorry.
Oh, sweet, cool.
Call in PBS kid.
PBS. If you'd like to donate, call now. But yeah, so this will all roll into the real PetrowLine podcast, but PetrowLine mobile or go-to or whatever the hell we're going to call this, on the go. This is just a precursor to what is really supposed to be happening. And of course, with the current situations and me being stuck here with the wife, not that that's a problem or an issue, but being up here in Canada, making sure that me and the wife and our fur babies are together for this duration of the quarantine, was important. So I had to be here, but once this is all done, we're going to be moving into, we'll be back and we'll be doing a lot more stuff, not just podcast stuff, but we got a lot of other video stuff that we're working on as well. So, but I'll talk to you.
I would like the world to know that when Billy Petrow talks about his fur babies, he's talking about the stuffed walrus and the woolly mammoth, not a walrus, and the
right.
And the dinosaur in the back.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely not a walrus.
Yeah, you've got the woolly mammoth. And
they still have those in Quebec, right? Those are
Claret. Yes. They're just north of here. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, hopefully stay safe, everybody. Stay safe, you guys up there, and hopefully we can be doing real stuff, real racing, real cars.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it real soon, hopefully. So, but yeah, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
See you, man.
See you, dude.
Way to unify it. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the sad day off. You did.